Today, I'm directing the United States Trade Representative to examine China's policies, practices, and actions with regard to the forced transfers of American technology and the theft of American intellectual property. As President of the United States, it's my duty and responsibility to protect the American workers, technology, and industry from unfair and abusive actions.
All right, that event, President Trump was attended by my next guest, Cambria CEO Marty Davis. His company was the target of a Chinese effort that would have destroyed potentially his company, and that is until he and the White House, with its own policies and his focus, fought back. Marty's going to join us in just a moment. But first, Trace Gallagher is live now in our West Coast newsroom with the backstory on this battle. Trace.
Laura, as the U.S.'s largest producer of quartz countertops, backsplashes, and floor tiles, Minnesota's Cambria company makes it their business to keep an eye on foreign competition. For example, in 2010, the company says China exported $5 million of quartz into the U.S. Last year, that number jumped to more than $450 million, and for the first 9 months of this year, the total bounced up yet again to $526 million. But the quartz wasn't just being imported, it was being illegally dumped in the U.S., meaning China was subsidizing it so it could be sold in this country well below cost. The goal, of course, is to undercut the competition and control the market. Cambria estimates that last year alone, China displaced $1.2 billion of U.S. quartz. And adding insult to injury, China was also slapping a 40% tariff on quartz being imported to their country. Last April, Cambria petitioned the U.S. Commerce Department and the International Trade Commission to intervene, writing, quote, "Fair trade and free trade are inseparable paradigms. You simply cannot have one without the other. We believe strongly in free trade. To protect it, we must demand fair trade." And sure enough, subsequent investigations have found that China was indeed dumping underpriced quartz into the United States. So in September, the Commerce Department increased tariffs on select Chinese quartz to 5 times the previous number and bumped up the tariffs once again in November. Clearly, the companies reselling the cut-rate Chinese quartz were hoping to keep the goods flowing. Now it appears they, too, will have to make a few adjustments. Laura.
Oh, Trace, thanks so much. And Marty Davis, CEO of Cambria, is here. Marty, this is a wild story. You started this company when?
2001, Laura.
2001, and you saw a market, and you live in Minnesota. Your family is business in Minnesota, and you want to employ Minnesota employees.
Yeah,
What happens years later with China's involvement?
We saw an opportunity. We started the company. We founded the company. Myself and Jim Ward, our finance manager, were the original employees. Today we have nearly 2,000. We went through a lot of struggles to build the business, as you would imagine. By 2010 or 11, after the meltdown of '08, we got back on our feet, and the company was starting to flourish, as was the industry. And we developed a lot of technology, invested heavily in innovations, did a lot of work around productivity, and really the business started to skyrocket. And about that time, 2013, 2014, the Chinese producers from China started to dump product into the United States.
What does that mean, dump product, for people who are watching?
Well, they're subsidized by their government. The People's Republic of China is not a friendly participant in a free enterprise economy in America. They subsidize their companies, they run their banks, they're state-owned, and they're going after American manufacturing. And
are you afraid of competition? That's what the free traders would say. Well, Marty, are you afraid of competing with China? Can't you beat China, Marty? What's the problem?
Yeah, well, we are free traders, and you have to have fair trade to have free trade and a level playing field. I think the president understands that, as does his team. We like competition. Competition helped us develop our technologies a lot better. We have tremendous competition in the industry from other domestic producers, and it's been good for the industry and for the business. It's not a competition. This argument by some of the politicians about free trade, they don't understand what free trade is. They should get out in the market and run a manufacturing facility and have your manufacturing worker have to compete with the Chinese government instead of a Chinese manufacturing worker. There's no competition there.
Tell me about the average employee you have.
The business fails.
The people in your firm, Tell me about them. What are they like?
Well, I mean, the people that helped us build the company start from all different kinds. It can be graduate students and undergrads and hardworking, unskilled labor that come out of high school and go to work in a manufacturing facility. And they work hard, they're innovative, they're productive, they're focused, and they're diligent in their work. They're amazing, and they'll compete with anybody in the world. But you cannot compete with a rogue party dictatorship like China, who has targeted this amazing economy in America as their target to I say, heist our manufacturing platforms and move them to China.
Now, tell me about the president's approach. And I want to play a soundbite for you first. This is from Abby Phillips. She's a CNN reporter and made this point about the president's use of tariffs, Marty. Let's watch.
The president decided to use tariffs, which is a pretty archaic tool to get China to the table. And maybe they have gotten them to the table, but they have not been making a lot of progress.
Archaic tool.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, a lot of our politicians, and many of them Republicans, don't understand the use of the word tariff or what it really means. Tariff is a trade enforcement tool in many instances, in most. That's what the president and his excellent team, Lighthizer, Wilbur Ross, and Peter Navarro, and others that are over there, they're extraordinary leaders in this part of our economy. They understand that it's a trade enforcement tool to ensure that trade law that is violated is dealt with. And these conditions, they're violating existing U.S. trade law. We didn't go and ask for new law. We asked the United States government, Trade and Commerce, we petitioned them to go after China and investigate whether they were violating U.S. trade law.
And they found that indeed they were. They went from $5 million dollars worth of quartz material, that raw material to make the counter, to what?
$5 million imported in 2010 to roughly $570 million in 2017. And if you look at their economics,
that's the projection for this year. It'll be $800 million. Now that's not dumping. If you don't see those figures, you don't think that's dumping of cheap product?
Laura, there's a couple of key points. If you look at what they displaced in our market prices, it's over $1 billion, which is 1/60th of the deficit. In addition to that, the Chinese product, in some cases, this is amazing to anybody that's manufactured in the marketplace, their prices were below our raw material costs. That's why we knew
that is the classic dumping case. If you dump it under cost, then there is no competition. That's right. The people who you employ, their mothers, their fathers, their high school graduates, the people who graduated from college, engineers and so forth. What do these jobs mean for them?
Well, I mean, obviously, they're a great part of the company. They are the company. I would tell you that their dedication to our business is why it exists. We should have invested another $150 million in property equipment, and we should have added 350 employees to our company. In 2016, we shut that down
because of the China
result
cheating.
Of this dumping. That's a fact.
You were able to fight China here. A lot of companies can't. Marty Davis, thank you for doing that, and thank you for having an open mind politically, because it's not politics. This is about the country.
It's a policy issue, not a political issue. And I don't understand why it's not a policy issue for the entire country.
All right, Marty Davis, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.